loneliness kills, literally. Loneliness is as powerful as a killer as smoking or alcoholism.
Wow.
To not have loving, healthy connections, it shortens longevity.
Yeah.
It certainly does not increase quality of life. I think
Right.
any of us know that. But the interesting thing about it, and I loved it because you nailed it, you said to intentionally craft and support and nurture relationships.
Yeah. On today's episode, I have Tami Jorden here, and I am so excited for our interview. Tami, thank you so much for your time. It is going to be such an awesome conversation today.
It
I
absolutely is. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
of course. We've talked in a bunch of different capacities, right? We've talked offline, we've talked on your podcast, we've talked a lot about just what we are similarly passionate about. And it's really this
Yeah,
topic of how do we empower midlife women from 40s,
yeah.
50s, 60s beyond? How do we help women step into who they are called to be, meant to be, the beautiful individuals that they are?
Mhm.
And the wonderful work you are doing. I am so excited for you to share more about today. So again, thank you again for being here, my friend. And I'd love to kind of start a little bit with this concept of women in midlife and what typically happens as far as transformation goes. You know, one of the things that you've shared with me is this idea of describing midlife as this chrysalis and this opportunity to really reflect and transform and think about who are you and what do you really want to do with your life and how do you want to get back into things you're passionate about or whatever that might look like. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about this stage in your lens and how do you really help women reconnect both with their body, their soul, their passion, etc., when they're really in this season.
Mm. That is a huge question, first of
Yeah.
all. So I'm gonna try to go at it and give you lots of good information. First of all, I love that you're serving women in midlife. And because the thing is that starting with my generation, Gen X, we're the end of boomer, beginning of Gen X for me. Um, and the other side thing I wanted to say is what I love about this is that you're repping the 40s. I'm now repping 60s.
Yeah.
So the things that I share with you come from having been in the trenches and having amazing friends
Yeah.
and trying to synthesize out what did we learn and what can we know and what can we share and pass on to the women around us and behind us. Because here's the deal. Gen X in specific, but kind of Gen Jones, which means born around 1960,
Yeah.
because we grew up in the 60s and 70s, we are having a very different midlife than our moms.
Yep.
Most of our moms worked, or a whole lot of them did. That's very different from generations before us. Most of the women before us, your option was to be a grandma and I don't know, knit, garden, whatever. Those are
Yeah.
great activities, but that's sort of your lane that you were in.
Right.
We're having much longer, healthy runways post work life. But we have so many more options and beautiful possibilities about us. And that means we need to begin to talk about how it's different for us and what that means. And there's a wonderful emphasis on understanding menopause now and getting better support medically and holistically, and even that we can talk about it in society. Super important, awesome changes in that area. But the other piece of this midlife component that's maybe not talked about as much is just what you said. I really see somewhere when you begin to go through menopause, it's not just a bunch of physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Like that's the yucky part, straight up. It
Yeah.
is not fun.
No.
It's not. However, neither was labor and delivery, and a
Yeah.
bunch of us did that and lived to tell the story.
Yep.
So you can get through this. Women have eternally. There are more modern things that will help us with that process. So groovy. But what you need to know that's not really being talked about yet is that the emotional changes that go with your declining hormones when they are in combination for all that your life lessons have taught you,
Yeah.
somewhere over 50, everything falls apart and comes back together again in a
Wow.
different way.
Wow.
And I loved the Butterfly Days, my podcast is so named for a couple of reasons. One is that I'm a death doula, and the butterfly is just really resonant for end of life,
Yeah.
but also for all transitional phases. Remember, the caterpillar has no idea it's
Yeah.
going to be a butterfly.
Yeah.
And yet it's encoded in the DNA at a certain point to just come into the chrysalis where it literally becomes a hot, gloppy mess. And you can see now why it's so much like menopause,
Yeah.
because you also will probably be a hot, gloppy mess. But when you come through that, an entirely new and beautiful chapter of your life is possible. And it's a furtherance of what you were, certainly, but it's also kind of offering some new opportunities,
Yeah.
because so much of, I think, what we go through when we're young, we assume is just, oh, this happened to me and I had to go through this and it was terrible. But it's really funny, because if you live well and you tried to learn from everything that happened, and I mean everything, you bust 50, you have the hormonal thing that goes on, and it begins to occur to you, I know some stuff now.
Yeah.
And that's your wisdom. Suddenly you're packing wisdom in a way that you had it earlier, but it's coming more into the fore and into your ability to share it and into society to be able to hear it. Although I would say that this modern society, Western society, is the first, maybe in the history of the planet, that doesn't revere, honor their elders and their wisdom. Instead, we really, and this started to happen in the 60s,
Yeah.
we began to worship youth, and we began to worship sexuality and beauty. And I think beauty's always been worshiped, let's be
Yeah.
honest. But,
Yeah.
those things became important for your worth as a human, perhaps more so than gaining wisdom. And
Yeah.
that's a shame.
Yes.
But we're the Gen X. We are the first generation that can really move the needle on that and begin talking about it. And that's why I'm talking about it, is so that women can begin to know you're not over at 50. You have just begun a brilliant new chapter. The problem with brilliant new chapters, if you think about the myths, all the great stories, the hero's journey, is that they always begin in the dark forest.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
Right? So I want to encourage women that it's okay to go through hard things and to go through hard times, because in particular in your 50s, when you're taking the ride, it's actually you're going to exit that ride smarter, braver, and truer if you continue to think about what's important to you and show up your best. Those simple baseline things will set you up beautifully to figure out what you got in your tank for the
Yeah.
next chapter. So I don't
So
know.
good.
That may have taken
Yeah.
you too far, but
No, Tammy, so good. And the thing I love the most about what you just shared is this idea of how we don't necessarily celebrate wisdom as much as we
mhm,
should, right? We idealize all of these other things. We hold on to youth, right? That's a
mhm,
very, very common narrative, especially in the health and wellness space, which you and I have talked
everywhere.
about. And I
Yes.
think there is an absolute imperative balance that needs to happen inside of this discussion, because women like me speaking to women like you, there is so much growth and opportunity for learning and opportunity for support and opportunity for connection. And I don't want that to be lost because of all of the noise that inevitably happens inside of this space, especially for women on every single topic, but especially when we're talking about our longevity, our health, where we're going, how we feel, symptoms. It's not always celebrated, this idea of what are you learning? What are you growing into? What are
Mhm.
you evolving into? And how much of a gift is that? Right.
Right.
And I love that you shared that, Tammy, because it's huge and something that I know you and I are both really passionate about, empowering women to embrace and feel good about, because this is really the road to feeling good in the skin you're in and waking up energized every day and feeling like I have purpose, I have passion, I know that I'm here for a specific reason. And that doesn't
Yeah.
have to stop based on a generation, based on what you've gone through, based on a symptom or your story. There's so much more to this. And I love that you're just
Hmm.
bringing this to the forefront and you're helping women see this as the gift that it is. You know, it's not
Yeah.
easy, right? But it's a gift.
You know, uh, uh, listen, get mad about it, don't. But the fact of the matter is that society, at least the one we're in right now, is always going to keep the focus on externals. Maybe that's about advertising, maybe that's about whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A smart woman is always going to figure out that her life is this much. I'm doing small fingers here for the
Yeah.
podcast listeners about externals, and this much big distance internals.
Yeah.
Who you are will always trump what the outside looks like. This whole
Yeah.
Instagram culture where we're looking at other people's, we're judging our insides by other people's outsides. It's
Yep.
silliness. And part of wisdom is understanding that's externals. Be amazing inside, show up with integrity and stay in alignment with your core values and with what you think is beautiful and holy and true. You're gonna be phenomenal post
Yes.
50 because
Yes.
you packed your backpack and you know what matters, you know?
Yes. It's so good. You know what matters. And, you know, we're going to talk a lot about that, especially with your experience as a death doula. And that is just such a tremendously powerful lens to really look through when it comes
Mm,
to what's important, right? What
hmm.
matters, what life really should be focused on most, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things you just talked about, Tami, was kind of this idea of longevity, right? And how do we really show up decade after decade with our wisdom in a way that feels good? And I know a big part of what you teach and talk about is this idea of connection, right? We have to be stepping into our true selves, but alongside that, we have to be forming with intention connections with other people, forming relationships, talking about who we are, finding common interests with other
Hmm.
people, and really building something that's deep rooted, something that's reciprocated energy, something that also fills our cup in that capacity. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about connections and relationships, right? Based on what you really see, believe, teach. You know, how is this a big indicator of how well you live and how good you feel in your day to day?
Brilliant. The Harvard has like an 85 plus year study on it's called the Harvard Adult Development Study. They're actually in the second generation of doing it because many of the initial people that they studied from college onward have now passed. That's how long this study is and what they've been
Wow.
looking at. And one of their big takeaways that I think speaks directly to what you're saying is that loneliness kills,
Yep.
literally. Loneliness is as the study showed it. Loneliness is as powerful as a killer as smoking or alcoholism.
Wow.
To not have loving, healthy connections is it it shortens longevity.
Yeah.
It certainly does not increase quality of life. I think
Right.
any of us know that. But the interesting thing about it, and I loved it because you nailed it, you said to intentionally craft and support and nurture relationships.
Yeah.
If you really, you can end up lucky at the end. You could end up stumbling onto a great life and go out at 99 or whatever your number is
Yeah.
and have it all. But most of us know that we're going to need to pay attention to what matters so that, and I can tell you, man, I can totally tell you this as a death doula. At end of life, people who are express the greatest amount of kind of satisfaction and pride. They talk about being a good partner. They talk about raising healthy kids that they're proud of, good humans, right? These are the kind of things they talk about. They don't talk about that they had a slam and bod
Yeah.
or that they were the president of this or that. They don't talk about how much money that they're just about to leave. You know, they talk about the relationships in their lives. And what that tells us is how important relationships are. I often say that relationships are not just frosting, they're cake. You need to, and I'm pro cake, so
I
that's
love,
a very good thing.
I love it.
But you got to focus
Yeah.
on it and you need to see your relationships as healthy. They're not decorative, they're not extras. And because of that, I think a lot of us have guilt if we want to have like a get together with our girlfriends or we want to, make time to develop a particular relationship. We're a little like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. Listen, healthy relationships are going to sustain you all the way to your end if you're lucky, dude.
Yeah.
Invest in them.
Yes.
They are absolutely something that you should be intentional and invest in. Invest in the good people, collect them. I
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
have extraordinary women and men, but largely women. The data on how many women get to end of life solo is a little sobering.
Wow.
I think over 50 that 50% of women are solo over 50. This can be gray divorce, which is the later in life divorce. This can be because they've chosen singleness, which is fine, cool. Or this can be widowhood that
Yeah.
they've entered into. So about 50% of women, if you look around, if there's four of you, two of you are likely to be single by the end of your life. This
Wow.
means your friends are going to matter, girl.
Yeah.
In addition to that, the understanding is that 15% of men are single at end of life.
Wow.
So our retirement is not like their retirement. That can impact you financially, emotionally, all the things. You're probably focusing on your physical health. Yay. You're probably paying attention to your retirement numbers. Go, girl, because you need to do it. And if
Yeah.
you're putting that off, this is your message from the universe. Stop doing that. Call somebody who can help you.
Yeah.
But also develop healthy support relationships.
Yeah.
They matter. The who you're connected to and how good those connections are going to become exponentially more important, certainly over 60, 70. Remember, attrition's going to be come into play over
Yeah.
those numbers, and people that you love dearly will not be here.
Yeah.
So, couple of things in that real quickly to unpack. When you invest in people in your life, your payoff is not only the possible that you'll be together and be able to support each other to the end, but also that right now you're improving quality of life and improving theirs.
Yeah.
And you're learning from each other and you're bringing in things that we're never going to be able to have a fun, easy measurement for. And
Right.
yet the richness and the vitality, really important. So, one thing I always teach is that you can't make new old friends.
Yeah.
You want old friends later. You got to invest now. You got to front load this bad boy. You
Yeah.
got to prioritize who matters and double down on them. You got to be wise about being able to edit
Yeah.
people who diminish you, who pull your energy, who are not healthy for you.
Yeah.
Find ways that are appropriate for you to edit their impact and instead lean into who matters.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those people, begin to think to yourself, what might I do to put myself in places where I could meet and develop relationship with more of them? Can be an
Yeah.
area of passion, volunteer, things like that. But does that begin to color what you're looking at, Aaron? Does that get us close?
Absolutely. Yes. And, one of the things I want to quickly touch on, and I'd love for you to kind of give some feedback here, Tammy, is this idea of really pouring in and making the time. And, I think that that is a really big hurdle for women, for men, for moms, dads, like I just feel like in our society, for whatever reason, it feels hard to make the time, to find the time, to figure out if you maybe aren't in a place where you have a lot of deep-rooted relationships, how do you find a place where you can connect on like-minded things you're passionate about? Or
Mm-hmm.
how do you get connected to a group that maybe you will connect with deeper, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about this idea of making time. Like, what on a tactical level does that really look like for you? What are you doing with the relationships in your life? And how would you help a woman that feels this and knows that she needs this, but doesn't necessarily know, like, how does she make the time? How does she really get more intentional with pouring into deep-rooted relationships?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what you believe, not just what you think, because otherwise your exercise equipment would be used far more.
Yeah.
What you believe is priority, is what you will probably end up giving your time to. And what you give your time to is going to grow and thrive and bloom in your life. Remember, what you pay attention to expands,
Right.
right? So if you shift your priority, if we define friendships and healthy relationships, they don't all have to be friendships. We're just talking healthy relationships. Maybe you
Right.
have lovely warm relationships with your barista every
Yeah.
morning, before you're going into work. Hey,
Yeah.
that's actually awesome, and it's great social connection.
Yeah.
And I want to gently encourage that without a focus on it, but saying, show up in your life, you know,
Yeah.
show up in your life with kindness and goodness and pay attention to the people around you, because I think you're going to find an extraordinary amount of magic is hidden in that. So
Yep.
that's like pro tip number one. But begin to understand that these relationships are not just frosting, they matter.
Yeah.
And if they matter, they need to be a priority for you. And if
Yes.
they're a priority, it's a little less guilt inducing that you
Yeah.
need to take time and do it. I think it's
Yes.
hard for some of us as moms because we're sort of used to
Yeah.
suffering,
Right.
or just, maybe not full blown suffering, but certainly like bracketing our
Yeah.
needs so we can take care of everybody else's,
Yeah.
which is a great thing, and it must be done for children. And I sort of laugh at women who act like, well, you shouldn't have to do that as women. Oh, you've clearly never raised children, and you
Yeah.
know what? We would all do it again because we
Yep.
love our babies and it's what's necessary. So
Yes.
I don't want to knock that, but I want to say, all of us being honest that we need to
Yes.
be nurtured, healed, honored through loving relationship with other women. It's necessary.
Yes.
It's not some darling little bauble extra that we could,
Right.
if we have enough time, we'll get to. You can do that, but you will reap the reward of that. And you need to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to live with that cost? And
Yeah.
maybe you are, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But investing now pays off later. You know
Yes.
it. You're thinking about it with your finances. I would say think about it on an emotional basis. Um,
Yes.
if you have a few or a group of amazing women friends, begin to talk about amongst yourselves how important their love, their support, their friendship is to you, and how much you want to figure out how to make it go the distance.
Yeah.
Begin to commit to each other. Begin to see each other. Oh, it's going to make me cry. Begin to see each other for the beautiful, amazing souls that you are, and
Yeah.
understand that you can take this journey a really long way if you're all able to prioritize it. And I can promise you, at least with the women I know and with the women I observe, other women who have deep friendships, the payoff from this, no matter how long we share this journey, is extraordinary. And I
Extraordinary.
think it makes us better humans to
Yeah.
serve all the other people and causes in our lives that we think are powerful and important. So talk about it in your friendships, begin to prioritize it as a group. In my friendships, one of the things that I realized when I turned 60 is that one of my absolute favorite things in life, and it's kind of obvious, but I never thought about it, is to have an adventure with my friends.
Yeah.
And it can be husband and friends, or it can just be the girls. Either one's cool. But I love to go somewhere and learn new stuff and do stuff together. we dive, we do a lot of other things. And so this year, my girlfriends and I do not live, my very closest girlfriends, like 5 of the 6, do not live in my state.
Okay.
So we made conscious efforts to meet up and get together and get time with each other. And it was not easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheap in some cases,
Yeah.
but you invest your
Yep.
time and your resources, your love. Those are investments. You figure out how to invest, double down on those relationships. What if you don't have them? Okie stokey. First of all, the first step is to know that you want them.
Yeah.
To begin to want it is to begin to turn on your heart light and to begin to draw it to you. Don't become impatient with the process. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Begin
Yeah.
to want it and begin to play the long game. You want to develop good, strong, long-term relationships. You don't want to just pick up whatever shows up.
Yeah.
You need your people.
We'll get back to our conversation shortly after this message. If you are an overwhelmed and completely confused mom who just wants a simplified, easy to follow, and understandable plan when it comes to their health and wellness journey, then you're in the right place. As a wellness coach, I focus most on empowering women to follow a highly personalized and bio-individual plan that actually gets you results and that feels sustainable for your longevity. I'd love to invite you to set up a free coaching call to talk about your health and wellness journey. Head to erinshreer.com/coaching to set up your call today. Again, that URL is erinshreer.com/coaching to set up your call. And to make it even easier, head to the show notes of this podcast and click free coaching session to set up your call ASAP. Now let's dive back into the conversation.
One of the best places, there are a few places at work. You would be shocked sometimes at the great friendships that come out of work. People think, well, we just work together. But if you click, get to know them better. You might have something, deeper. So work, your passions, areas of care and passion that you have. I volunteered Ronald McDonald House, Children's Hospital, Colorado, Houston Hospice, the Houston Greater Area Partnership. These are marvelous charities. United Way, they do incredible work, and they're always looking for people who share their passion and who want to give of their time, their resources, their care. Find a way to show up and serve that works in your schedule and in your way. You would be shocked that you can do it. And in those places, you find like-minded people. Some of the best, most commitment-worthy people are found just giving from their good place. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't even have time for that. Girl, you have time for what matters. That's the truth. So if it matters to you and you can't do it this hot minute, what tiny Lego-sized step could you take to begin to set yourself up to do it in the near future? Just small. And the thing is, it will be scary at first to reach out for some of you. And I just want to encourage you that, something you can't, we used to laugh because I used to tell my girlfriends, you cannot go into Kmart and get the really good diamonds. You can't. You have to go someplace that has the good stuff, and you have to pay the price if you want the good stuff. And in life, it's the same. It's okay if you're not doing it this exact second, but if you know what you want and you're slowly inching towards it, that's actually good enough for right now.
Yes.
Just begin to move to what matters. But I think those are some good ways to start. Double down on what you have, and begin a church, any type of faith-based organization or organization that shares common belief structure can always be a brilliant place to go find and make friends and look for quality people, because that's what you're looking for.
Right.
You're not just looking to populate, on the surface. You need people that you can care about. And there's a second thing, actually, that I'll say. I think it might be important at this point. I know I'm talking a lot, but I think you like this. I think you will like this as a point. A lot of us, especially coming out of our 20s, 30s, and sometimes 40s, we're the girl in the friendship. We are the one. We showed up with stuff when your baby was born. We thought about that you needed this, that, or that. We called. We made sure when your dog died, we sent the little card. We plan the events, we do all the things, and we're used to being the girl who does it all. When you develop deep, and that's an awesome thing. I am Julie, the cruise director in my
Yeah.
girlfriends.
Yeah.
For those of you old enough to remember the Love Boat, that's my job. But what I had to understand is that in developing long-term relationships, it must be reciprocal,
Yeah.
mutually reciprocal. You need to be able to give as beautifully as you receive.
Yeah.
Both are important for you and for the other women that you care for. You must develop the musculature to receive.
Yes.
It's very, very powerful. But you also need to be able to do that with people that are trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
that anybody is perfect or we won't have hurts or regrets, but make sure that you give your heart to people that deserve it,
Yeah.
and do so in a mutually reciprocal way. The power is in the mutuality.
Yes.
Sometimes you're coming in hot at 90% in this friendship, and sometimes I'm coming in hot with it same way.
Yep.
But the love that binds us and holds us, and you know that one day everybody listening to this, every single woman who hears this is going to lay on a bed at the end and give her breath back.
Yep.
I guarantee you that to have loved well and allowed yourself to be loved, you can leave without regrets. And that's really, as a death doula and a woman who just cares
Yeah.
deeply,
Deeply.
that's where I want to encourage women to be at.
I love that you're speaking on so many powerful things here, Tammy. And I think the thing that I want to recall back the most is this idea of healthy relationships, reciprocated energy. And that is what leads
Mm,
to depth, right? That's what leads to deep rooted
yes.
giving, receiving. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I know exactly who you are, and they see you for exactly who you are. And it's really this deep rooted, authentic, transparent exchange. And I know for me, as I've grown older, that is something that I really cherish in relationships. And it's a hard process to kind of work yourself through, especially as you age, because you start to see yourself evolving, you see other people
Hmm.
evolving, you see change happening. And it really has to be this slow, reflective process, like you said, of really
Yeah.
assessing, what do I want? Right. And then working with what you have, but then building into more if there are gaps, to really make sure that you're getting into this place of
Yes,
having deep rooted relationships. Like that matters. And
it
you also
matters.
touched on this. Women are givers. Like that is really how women function most often. We are giving all the time.
And it's
Yeah, and
beautiful.
it's beautiful. And at the same time, you have to get into this place of being able to receive. And when you said that, I felt it in my heart and my soul, because I have had
Yes.
to figure out, okay, I've had seasons where I have not been great at
Yeah.
receiving, right? I've been
Yeah.
in mom mode, caring for all the people, just head down, doing what I need to do, checking things off the list, and not always being as open or slowing down enough to say, yeah, I need to let people in, and I need to make sure that I'm also receiving in this season. And I think that's very common. I've had this conversations with friends of, it's so much easier to give sometimes rather than receiving,
A
and
hundred.
have somebody see you and have somebody potentially see you really vulnerable for some reason. Like that can be really uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
it's so imperative. And I love that
Yeah.
you're just like normalizing this and talking about how much this matters, especially as you get through your life, and
Yeah.
especially as you continue to age and grow and evolve. Like having these dedicated places in your life where you feel that reciprocated energy, it matters tremendously. It matters.
Exponentially important.
Yes.
Exponentially. I love what you're saying, because part of what you hit on was kind of brilliant, and I realized I didn't give it language like this. You don't want, you need to know what you want, but you also need to know what you don't want.
Yep.
And editing is a really important tool. Editing is actually, every year I choose a word, and my word for 2025 is editing,
Yep.
because what you pull out is as important as what you keep,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Relationships, there's no room in longevity for rescuing, for codependency, for believing. I used to have people that I literally had a friend one time, and we were friends for many, many years, that she said, there's no reason we should be friends. Why do you want to be friends with me? And I had to convince her. And we went on to have a friendship that
Yeah.
lasted over a decade.
Yeah.
It ended poorly, which was a shock to me for some reason
Yeah.
when it started with, why are we friends? But
Wow.
in the back of my mind, I thought, because you don't understand how powerfully I love, and I will show you, I will rescue you.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
these are not the relationships that I am talking about.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
no. And as the girl that gets a lot of stuff done and does a lot of stuff, I can tell you sometimes my girlfriends would come in and they would be like, let us love you, let us take care of you. And I was super uncomfortable
Yeah.
with that.
Yes.
But can I
Yes.
tell you that I am a finer human, because it turns out that there was some serious genius in their hearts and in their minds and in their counsel,
Yeah.
that I would have denied myself from thinking that I didn't need to receive. I wouldn't want to be the woman now who didn't hear what they shared then.
Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
better. I'm so much better. So if you can edit unhealthy relationships, if you can make sure that the ones that you're sinking and the ones that you sink time into are healthy. The other thing, you said something, and we always want to be balanced.
Yeah.
Listen, there are seasons when you're barely going to be able to be above water. Somebody is very sick. Your children are very young. You have three soccer players
Yeah.
and a saxophone
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to be who's on third, and you and your husband are swapping, and there's a
Yeah.
lot that will go on. And
Yeah.
we want to honor the truth of that, or you have a really high powered job and you travel a lot or whatever. You're not going to have a ton of time to invest.
Right.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything, though.
Right. Right.
Be real thoughtful about where you get your power shot. Those little
Yeah.
booster coffee things that you can
Yes.
get. Consider your friendship from that angle and be
Yep.
sure to find ways to sneak it in, because
Yes.
you do
So
need
good.
it. But don't guilt shame yourself. Is guilt shame a word?
It is
Don't
today.
guilt or it is now, girl.
Yes.
Um, don't shame yourself that you're not getting the kind of time that maybe when it opens up a little bit more, you'll be able to do better.
Yes.
Um, and if you are in a friendship group or whatever, and you're finding, I'm so busy, I cannot plan or do anything, reach out to another woman or to your text chain group and say, y'all, I'm going 90 to nothing, but I love you so much and I'm thinking about you.
Yes.
Please, if somebody has a great idea for how we could connect, maybe it's Zoom cocktails,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Even if, whatever it is, let's meet one day, let's have a girls' day out in town. Whatever you can do. D- don't ever, and this applies to so many things, but don't discount the value of a tiny right act. It
Yes.
can really take over for a bunch of wrong
Yeah.
choices. So
So
it's
good.
okay if an act
Yeah.
is small or if something is small. Try for the big ones, of course,
Yes.
but don't discount the power of that small thing.
It's such a good reminder, Tammy. And the thing that I appreciated you saying in what you just shared to recap was this idea of not like guilting or shaming yourself for where you're at, right? What season you're in, what you're able to give. And, one of the things I always talk about with women, especially because we have big hearts and we're giving and we're taking care of all the things, is we can't get into this headspace of feeling like we should be doing all the things at the expense of our own wellness, at the expense of our own health, at the expense of our
Yeah.
own well-being. That includes how we're pouring into relationships. And it's so incredibly powerful to hear you say, there's seasons and sometimes it's going to feel a little bit smaller, but the smaller
Hmm.
things still matter. And at the end of the day, You can't
Yes.
be beating yourself up or shaming yourself or guilting yourself for where you're at right now. And that kind of leads me into the topic of loving yourself with intention and how much that also matters for connection and relationships. And I know this is a
Yeah.
big one for you because having the relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you will ever have. And really growing and learning to love exactly who you are is a foundational piece to being able to connect
Hmm.
with other people. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about this idea of building self love or maybe even rebuilding self love, especially in midlife, and really
Yeah.
what that means for women and why it matters too.
Yeah. It's really important in
Yeah.
midlife because you are not that shiny young thing anymore.
Yeah.
You know, earlier you might have thought you were the bomb because how cute you look in those jeans, and I'm sure you did. And you should love it because good for you.
Yeah.
But there are going to be a lot of different things, and the lines on your face and the creaks in your knees, and these things are going to come into play, and you're going to have to know who you love beyond the cute jeans,
Yeah. Yeah.
or she was able to do her hair, perfect or whatever. But one thing that you said, and I'm trying to give it words well. You said, don't shame yourself, etc. One of the beautiful things that dear friends do is and we do it for each other, it's such a powerful gift, is we reflect back to each other who we are.
Yeah.
We see the best of you despite really dumb choices. And some of them are fashion choices, but I'm not going to go off there. Um, despite whatever choices, your true homies, your ride or dies, they love you. They see
Yeah.
your heart through all of it and they know who you are. And there are seasons and moments when your friends will say to you, girl, you got to come back. You got to come back. You got to remember who you are.
Yeah.
You're amazing and you're forgetting it. You're lost and you're like in the dryer,
Yeah.
tumbling around, and you don't need to be, because we see you. You're doing fine. This part's hard, but you got it. Hang in there. There's just a lot. And why am I talking in such a heavy Southern accent? I'm not sure, but there's just a lot of powerful things that your friends will do for you,
Yeah.
and God love them and God bless them. And may you do them right back for them, because again, the power of the mutually reciprocal. But there's an important piece here, and in midlife it sort of becomes glowing.
Yeah.
It's very well highlighted, and it is this: in midlife, if you haven't figured out how to love you, you're going to have a really hard time,
Yeah.
because this is your space to begin to blow it open and to give us the best of what you got, baby.
Yeah.
We want to know what's in your tank that you spent a lifetime developing, the
Yeah.
unique potion of Eunice. And here's the deal: if you don't know what that is, if you're still in that place where somebody says, "What do you want?" and you don't know,
Yeah.
girl, we've all been there, but it's not going to serve you.
Yeah.
You've got to be choosing to understand what's beautiful and good about you and be brave enough to love that girl and that woman. I look back at pictures of me, and I've said this before. I see pictures of me when I was like in my 20s, and I was so darling, and I was so mean to that girl.
Yeah.
The thoughts I had in my head, the way that I saw her, every mistake she made was the
Wow.
stupidest thing that ever happened.
Wow.
She was not smart enough. She was not capable. She was gonna maybe never become anything. I mean, the relentless, terrible self talk. It
Yeah.
served nothing. It served nothing. If you get over 50 and you're still doing what we did as little girls and
Yeah.
in high school and in middle school and sometimes in our 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
which is where we look to those around us, our beloved, our peer group, our corporate, friends and people that we're around. If
Yeah.
you look at your society, your religion, anything else to tell you, are you good enough? Are you valuable? Are you beautiful?
Yeah.
It's never going to feel enough.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a hole that's just always empty. the way that you begin to feel whole and to bring that to your friend group is that you begin to see what's beautiful about you
Yeah.
and you admit it and you become pleased with it and indeed proud of it. Not in a way like I'm the best and you're nothing. I'm not advocating that. But I'm a pretty darn good friend, mom, storyteller, partner,
Yeah.
corporate attorney, whatever your gig is. It's okay to be proud of yourself in that healthy, grounded way where you see your pluses and your minuses, where you talk to yourself with the kind of kindness that you would absolutely deliver to your bestie. If
Yes.
you would say to her, baby, I know you screwed it up, and boy, you did. But you know what? I see your heart
Yeah.
and you didn't mean to. You are not this person overall. This is a mistake. Get back on that horse and get out there.
Yeah.
When you can talk to yourself that way, oh my goodness, who you're bringing to the party with your
Yeah.
friendships and with the rest of the relationships and with what you're going to create over 50, it's gonna be powerful.
Yeah.
And when you lay down to give your breath back, I guarantee you, you're going to be proud. There
Wow.
ain't nothing better than being proud of who we made ourselves to be.
Tammy, that's so good. And the thing that struck me the most was the depth of the negative self-talk, and that makes me emotional, right? That makes me emotional because this is
Yeah.
so real and deep rooted for women, and we all have some level of soundtrack that somebody told us one time, or a story we made up, or an adopted narrative, or whatever it is, and it plays on repeat. And
Hmm.
even now in my life right now, in the season I'm in right now, like I still have conversations with women who have this level of struggle, and they don't understand the depth of how important it truly is to get into this place of wholehearted self-love, of saying
Yes.
things to yourself that you would say to your best friend, that you would say to your daughter, that you would say to anyone else in the world, because that's how much you give and care about other people. And when you can
Yes.
flip that and give it to yourself, like it really does become game changing for your overall health, for your overall mindset, for the way you're able to show up in relationships, and so much more. And so I just appreciate you again talking about the depth of how real that is for women, because it is. It
Hmm.
really truly is.
You
And
gotta love
yeah,
you.
got to. And you hit the nail on the head when saying, the relationship you have with yourself and the self-love that you create, that is what you start with when it comes to being able to show up for other people. And it's so important to make sure that you're always nurturing that the same way you would nurture all of the other things in your life, or the connections in your life. And so, Tammy, I can't thank you
Yeah.
enough for that depth, because women need to hear it, and we need to be reminded of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of something that in the South we say something's ugly. There is a little bit of an ugly side here, and you may not realize it, and you should be aware of it. A lot of times when we take our value from being the one who fixes or saves or rescues or is always the one who's there, right?
Right.
When we do that, we inadvertently make other people always be the victim, which
Yeah.
is not nice and is certainly probably not our intent, and yet we would if we stay in that space.
Yeah.
When we don't ever receive from anybody, we are basically saying that their counsel is not worthy of us,
Right.
even when we don't mean it. And when we take our value from how well we help you, we keep requiring you to not be the best version of you. So we're not a
Yeah.
very faithful friend or supporter like we may have thought.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we're using other people to get self esteem.
Yeah.
And there's just no need to do that because
Right.
actually, if you're kind enough to help people, there's something to love there.
Yeah.
You know,
A
you
hundred
know,
percent.
if you could have grace for, like you said, your partner, your children, your parents, your coworkers, your besties for making a mistake, then it would be okay if you made one too, wouldn't it? It would
Yes.
be okay if you were less than perfect. It would be okay if you had foibles.
Yes.
Just You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, keep going. If you don't like something, keep working on it, but don't just condemn yourself.
Yes. Yeah,
That goes
absolutely.
nowhere.
Yeah, it goes nowhere. I love that you're just talking specifically about how important it is to make sure that you're giving yourself that grace. Like it
Yeah,
really does matter. And we have to be expressing that to ourselves at all costs. And,
yeah.
we've talked a lot today about what I like to call kind of the relationship bucket of our wellness. I'm always thinking
Mhm,
about our health from this holistic point of view, right? What are all the puzzle pieces and why do each of them matter?
mhm.
The relationship you have with yourself and the relationship you have with other people, it is a huge driver
It's
inside of our
everything.
overall life well-being and just how we feel day in and day out. And I just
Yeah,
appreciate you, Tami, and everything that you've shared today. Like it's just so powerful as far as reminding women to be mindful about this piece of our day to day. And it really
mhm.
does have this profound effect on how we feel. And I just can't
Yeah.
thank you enough. Yeah.
It's so important, and I love what you're doing, the way that you're shining the light holistically
Yeah.
and overall on the whole picture of us, because it does matter
Yeah.
how we show up, and it
Yes.
does create a higher value life experience.
Yes.
And you and I want the same thing. And it's funny because as I'm thinking about it, it dawns on me, to every woman listening to this, I don't think there are a lot of mistakes. You got this particular episode in your ear for a reason.
Yep.
And highly likely it's to up level and to encourage and to nourish and sustain you in your life.
Yes.
And what a beautiful, amazing gift it is, Aaron, that you show up the way you do to encourage your audience, and what an honor to be called to speak to them as well. But if you're listening to this, man, we're all called to this beautiful holy work and to
Yep.
passing on the word that this is how we do it.
Yes.
And I'm rooting for your audience to figure out how to live their most powerful, beautiful, expanded life. And that you share that with me just is so exciting.
Yeah.
So much love to everybody listening to this, Aaron.
Tami, thank you so much. And, before we kind of quickly sign off, I'd love for you to share how people can find you, how they can connect with you, how they can learn more about the work you do, and how they can just learn how to potentially, see what you're doing and get a little bit more glimpse into your incredible work.
Yep. Well, you can always find me at TamiJorden.com. And my Tammy is a little different, as is my Jordan. So it's TamiJorden
Yes.
dot com, TamiJorden.com. Also, Butterfly Days is my Substack and my podcast. You can get that on Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, sorry,
Yeah.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. On YouTube, I'm under Tami Jorden and then Butterfly Days. I'm not sure how that works, but that's it. I speak for groups, events so far, and the podcast is sort of a hardcore effort that I'm first working on,
Yeah.
because I want women to know that there is still so much sand in your hourglass. What are you going to do with your one wild life? When you realize you still have a lot, then you know what you have to give.
Absolutely. And Tami, I can't thank you enough for your incredible expertise today and just your heart to serve
Same.
and just the passion that you have to really empower women in midlife, but even beyond that, below that, like just women in general. Like how can we continue to normalize these
Yeah.
conversations and talk about our life experiences and pass on our wisdom and celebrate
Mm.
that? And that's been the biggest gift of all inside of today's episode. So Tami, thank you again. We will make sure everything is linked in the show notes. So if you have an interest in learning more about Tami, the work she does, inviting her to speak, etc., make sure you go there to connect with her. And thank you again, my friend. So grateful for you. Take
And
care.
to you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know balancing time and energy can be a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for listening in and investing in your wellness journey. I feel incredibly grateful to connect with you and for the opportunity to share more knowledge, stories, and encouragement related to all things wellness. I would love to hear how this podcast has served you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on either iTunes or Spotify. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me reach more women just like you and me who are looking to transform their health from the inside out. Plus, when you share this episode with a friend, we invite more women in to learn alongside us. What a gift. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can do. For ourselves, for our families, and our future. Well done on taking the step towards a healthier, happier you. Until next week, stay empowered and stay well.